Now, I want to talk about the most important issue facing our great country that God has blessed us with. Most Christians recognize that our country is in a spiritual battle. And it's obvious we've been losing for 60 years. Now, let me ask you a question. What is our spiritual plan? You ever think about it? I don't think we have one. Now, our country has been in several wars and fought many, many battles. And our top generals get together and they develop a detailed plan for how to win. And we have always had our commander-in-chief, our president, giving his stamp of approval on the general's plans. Why don't we have that same strategy in this spiritual war? We don't have a spiritual plan, and that's why we keep losing. Now, we can see in our Bibles that spiritual men gave direction to the political leader, the king, or on how to approach the battles. And all the kings or political leaders were not godly men. But some of them were smart enough to listen to the spiritual leaders and that God would fight for them when they followed God and acknowledged God. Now listen, you do not have to have a godly political leader to lead a nation in a godly direction. You just need one that recognizes that if God be with you, who can stand against you? Now, I want to present to you a spiritual plan for our country and how I believe that it should be set up. Now, in 2017, I put out a series called No Spiritual Plan, which you can view later if you wish. But I'm gonna summarize that thing for you now. See, our spiritual leader needs to be our president. And again, see, the president does not have to be a godly man. Just recognize that we need God and listen to the spiritual men advising him. Now, I had hoped to get this plan to President Trump when he was in office. And while we don't think of President Trump as being a godly man, he did acknowledge the need for God and asked for prayer, on many occasions. And of course, our current president did not even use the name God in our National Day of Prayer back in April. Now, while President Trump is not in office now, I do think he has the following to get out to America a spiritual plan. And here's how the plan would work. First, we need to get together a few godly spiritual leaders to fast and to pray for God's direction and blessings on our country. Next, they would write some short but biblical prayers for our country. And then these prayers would be given to President Trump or any president who would pass them on to the people. Now, the prayer could be for the day, or they could write one prayer that we would use for the entire week. But the prayer would be sent out by social media to millions. And I know President Trump has been shut down, but he will soon have a platform again. Now, we would ask all to retweet the prayer to all of their connections. I mean, the prayer would reach millions. And we have many Christian athletes, Christian singers, Christian actors. We have TV and radio commentators that have millions of followers. And they could retweet or send on the prayer to their followings. And we would also ask all TV and radio and talk show hosts to take at least just 1 minute of their show each day to give the prayer. Here's our prayer for the day. And it would give them a great opportunity to talk about it if they wanted to, or just mention that this is the prayer. I mean, this will reach millions more. And I've got some other parts of this that I want to share here with you in just a second. Now, the prayer would also be sent to all Christian schools. And see, the teachers could take each day they could have their kids to stop and pray for the prayer. I mean, I think this will touch the heart of God. And we have Christian kids in public schools who could pray privately and also retweet the prayer. We also have hundreds of great Christian organizations with millions of followers that could be reached. I mean, just with a click of a button, they can do this. And here's what I think God is saying, is to organize the organized. In other words, we do not have to build a big organization. They're already in place. We've just got to pull them together by social media and get everyone praying the same thing at the same time. I mean, how powerful is that? And we have one other thing that we need to do, and that is we need to educate our country about our Christian foundation. I mean, we have proof that many of our founding fathers were godly men and that our Constitution is filled with God's principles. I mean, we have their statements of faith, and this needs to be shared with the world. And just as we would ask our leaders to publish a prayer, we would also ask them to give a statement from our founding fathers. We would also supply this just like we would the prayer. And see, all America is learning the same thing at the same time, and in the workplace they'll be talking about it and say, did you know this? Did you know that? It's a great way to educate the people, and again, we would all be together. And this is the basics of our plan. Now there are some other parts to it, but this is the basics that gives you the idea. I just ask you to think about it, pray about it, share it if you'd like to. And the poem series, No Spiritual Plan, is going to follow if you want to look at it. If you don't, that's fine. You get the general idea here. But again, I think this is what our country needs. Again, we're in a spiritual war. We don't have a spiritual plan. Here's a plan. Till next time, God bless.